Okay, greetings, YouTubers. This Crimea thing seems to be cropping up again. Here's what really happened. Okay, this is what you're being told. What fake news, etc., is telling you. It's been telling you for a long time now that Crimea Russia just unilaterally annexed Crimea, ramped up its forces, etc., and invaded the place. Possible covert invasion or assistance or something, which is no different than what we've done all over the world. So, pot calling a kettle black for complaining on that one. It would be in the eastern part of Ukraine a little bit, but not in Crimea. Okay? Here's what happened. For 300 years or so, Crimea has belonged to Russia. During the days of the Soviet Union, Khrushchev, himself Ukrainian, and supposedly as one of the new Soviet humanity, should be free from such regional and ethnic sympathies and sentiments, but he went and took using his authority as the premier. He took Ukraine and he took Crimea and dumped it into Ukraine, into their jurisdiction. All right. Now, this is an abnormal situation historically. Now, Ukraine itself was, for most of its history, nothing but a frontier where various warlords, Cossacks, and so forth held forth. Treaties exist which were basically signed on with these various warlords, okay? And it was created artificially as a nation by General Ludendorff in Germany as part of a scam to extract potatoes and cattle and whatnot from them into Germany in return for support in becoming a nation. I think he released some people from prison who were good at propaganda and poetry and so forth, and then proceeded to hypnotize everybody with their goddamn poetry and national songs and fake history and stuff that they put together in this stirring way, and pretty soon they had a mass movement on. It doesn't take much of a mass movement to accomplish what you want. 5 to 20% of the population armed and determined is usually about all it takes to make to affect something. So how much Ukraine at that time really wanted what it's got now is anybody's guess. Important thing now is that Crimea did not belong to Ukraine at any time in the past 300 years until Khrushchev put it there. And then Victoria Nuland, representing United States deep state interests, got involved in a arranging a little putsch in Kiev, and so this takeover, and there was tape conversation, her discussing who should be put in as a puppet ruler, and publicly she admitted $5 billion was spent to bring democracy to the Ukraine, meaning what? They already had democracy. Technically speaking, what these people usually mean by democracy and freedom is untrammeled control, authoritarian dictatorship, whatever, by the particular, I hate to sound like a commie, class interests, meaning the elite, the 1%, so it's a little more nailed down than that, deep state, some combination of intelligence, special access projects, and big money, Soros, for example. And the split point in Ukraine was whether to join the EU or not. There had been this movement started to join the EU, and the press said no. And this would really have been a bad idea. But anyway, a long time ago, NATO had agreed not to be expanding eastwards if the Cold War would end. And for a while it was denied this agreement existed, but recordings, witnesses, whatever, were found that proved it did exist. So anyway, about this time, Russia had maintained for a long time, I think the place is called Sebastopol, I'm not sure about that, it's on Crimea, it's a strategic naval base. Okay, by treaty, they had a right to have up to 25,000 troops and those warships, etc., in that naval base in Crimea while it was Ukraine. They had a treaty with it. With Kiev, it was totally legal. There was no invasion. There was no ramping up of the troops, except they had, I think, a few thousand more to bring it up to 25,000 maximum. because things got so unstable. They expected, and they knew the American interests were back of this Kiev business, and Sebastopol would be under attack one way or another, because to eliminate this would be to eliminate their access to the Black Sea, to eliminate their access from the Black Sea to the Mediterranean, and eliminate their ability to stand offshore, and put their foot down and say, no, you're not going to bomb Damascus. And if this had happened, if we had started bombing Damascus, the situation would have exploded sooner or later, pretty quickly, into a regional war, with most sides involved having some admitted or unadmitted nuclear capability. Would probably have proliferated beyond the regional into international pretty quickly. So if Russia hadn't stopped us there, we would probably have World War III on our hands eventually. Probably in a month or two of bombing Damascus. So the Kiev putsch was partly to disable Russian access to the Mediterranean. Well, they guarded their base. This was not an invasion. They used the legal limit. They did everything legally. Crimea's Russian people, in the meantime, were not happy with this because there have been some traditional difficulties between them and the Ukrainians and others. And it looked like these differences are going to escalate because the Russians are often Orthodox, whereas the Ukrainians are often either Roman Catholic or what is called the Uniate, also called Byzantine Rite, Eastern Rite Catholic. Now, these are people who are Orthodox in every way except that they consider the Pope the head of the church. Now, acts out, and it's all very nice and friendly and peaceful in Europe and North America. It's another matter entirely in Poland and Ukraine and thereabouts where the situation was violent. And so they turned to Russia. First they declared themselves independent. Crimea did. They declared themselves independent, became an independent nation state, and they had the solidity to, they had the coherence. They could back it up. Then they had a referendum, and they voted to rejoin Russia, appeal to Russia, take them in, and Russia did. And that's what happened. And if you doubt this story, I was watching the news as this was going on, but it's been suppressed. But you go on the internet and you search, Crimea, Russia, and maybe throw in Newland, but you get these search terms right, and you will find a ton of articles, the BBC and others reporting exactly this. Okay? Only now, currently the president, who's worried about fake news, is bought hook, line, and sinker with fake news, if it is true that he has told Putin he wants them to release Crimea back to Ukraine, who has, of course, refused to do it. If this story is true, that this was even discussed, I don't know. But anyway, that's the reality of the situation. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. And good night, all.